What is up, everyone? My name is Jake Bramler, and for a little backstory on me, I was living in China for about a year and a half before COVID, BC, and after the coronavirus started, I went back to America for about 1 year almost, and then in the beginning of 2020, I came back to China, and I've been living here for the past 5 months teaching English. And in that past 5 months, I'm getting so many questions on all my social medias, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, you get it. I've been getting so many questions about how I managed to get back, what the coronavirus situation is like, and many people just ask me for advice and help. And today, what I'm gonna do is just no edits, no talking things up. I'm just gonna be honest with all the questions I've gotten and hopefully give some people some advice and help anyone who's looking to come back to China still and hasn't been as lucky as myself. So I've written down 6 questions I wanna go over. These are the most popular ones I've received in the past 5 months. So number one, a lot of people might already know the answer to this, so feel free to skip ahead if you already know. But the first question I've been getting so much from family, friends, and everybody is, what's the coronavirus situation like in China, and is it safe? And I tell everyone the same thing. Living here the past 5 months has been such a blessing in terms of coronavirus, because I honestly forget that it's a thing most of the time, unless I'm talking to people back home or watching the news, because everything is so normal here and I don't worry about it whatsoever. I work as a teacher in a big office with many people. No one has to wear masks. No one's scared of the virus. I never fear that I'm gonna get it or spread it. I'm not vaccinated, but I still feel completely safe here. I've done a lot of traveling. The only time we ever have to wear masks, other than personal preference, a lot of people still do wear them, is if you're on public transit or taking a train or a plane. So I go to the gym, I go grocery shopping, I go to work, I hang out with students and everything, and I never have to worry about COVID. So that is such a blessing here. It's much better than the time I spent in America, where it was always on my mind. And question number 2 I've been getting so often is basically, how did I get back? How did I get my visa, my visa from America to come to China and do my COVID testing and my health code to get on the plane to come? So the first thing I want to say about that is I was very fortunate, because at the time that I left China, my residence permit was just renewed before I left. So I still had an active residence permit when China allowed for American travelers or workers to come back to China. So my residence permit was already renewed, so I had that in the bag before coming back. So in October, November area, when China said, oh, people with active residence permits or with ones that had expired can come back to China now for work, I just sent over all my stuff to the embassy in New York City, and they quickly processed it and gave me a good new valid visa to return to China. So that was really fortunate on my part, because I know people like my girlfriend and others, if you didn't have an active residence permit, getting the visa was much harder. And the second part of that was, once I finally had my visa, the COVID testing situation, because in America, sometimes it's not very clear, and the best advice I can give you is to go to your specific embassy site. So a lot of people have asked me like, oh, I only see like one listing in Texas for a COVID testing site, and what are the requirements and all that? And the requirements I've seen still to this day are you have to get it within 48 hours of boarding, and so you have to do rapid testing, and each embassy website has a specific testing sites that are valid. So if you go to the San Francisco site, you go to the New York site, the one in Dallas, the one in LA, you have to go and find that specific site and find the testing locations and look at those requirements specifically. And lastly, the health code. So when you get the COVID tests, you have to upload them all to this health code app and the server, and I found it to be honestly pretty easy and self-explanatory. So once again, if you just go to the embassy website and look at everything very specifically, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do, what you need to download and scan, and how to get your test and send them all in. And my code turned green as soon as I sent it in, so I know other people have had issues with like their code getting rejected and not processed correctly, but mine worked right away. So maybe I'm just a lucky person, I'm not sure exactly, and I can't speak on if you get a failed code or not. And question 3, I've been asked this a ton. Can you teach English in China if you're not from a native English speaking country? And the answer is yes, but it's much harder to get a job secured. So basically the main 7 countries that my school specifically hires, and many other schools, are America, Canada, the UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. Now those are the 7 countries that China at least considers to be English first language speaking countries. And if you're from one of those countries, congratulations, you can get a job pretty easily in China right now working as an English teacher. But it's not to say if you're not from one of those 7 countries, you can't get a job. I know many people from Russia and Belarus and even some from Colombia and other countries that they're not English first speaking countries, but they've still managed to get jobs at kindergartens and other areas. It's just most schools will search for teachers specifically from the countries that I mentioned, the first 7 countries. Now, question number 4, I've been getting so much, and I keep saying that, but this one especially, is the flight costs that I paid and any advice for finding flights. Because for a while, I haven't looked as much recently, but when I was first looking, and for a long time, the flights from America to China were absolutely astronomically expensive. And especially because they started changing the rules where you couldn't have layovers, you had to specifically go direct from America to China or other countries, so the UK, anywhere else, you had to do a direct flight. And I think that's still the case now. And the best advice I can give you before talking about my prices is that you should always book, right now during the times of coronavirus, always book directly on the website of the company you want to fly with. Because if you go on Google Flights or you're booking through third-party sites like Expedia, Kayak, Trip.com, all of those places, they might not have as up-to-date of information as the airline does. And the airline is much more willing to help you if you book directly through them, because you're basically cutting out the middleman and you're going right to the source. And this actually helped save me a lot, because I flew with United and there was a big change in my flight process like a week before I was supposed to come. I was freaking out about it, but I got on the phone with United and they walked me through it and helped. But if I had booked through Expedia or another site, it would be much harder to go through this third party and trying to circumvent the problem, and maybe you get a lot more annoying phone calls and all these things. So book directly with that company. And secondly, the prices. Now, even like the prices are just crazy high. I think I paid over $3,000 for my flight, like $3,500, which is crazy expensive. And the only reason I justified it was that coming back to China was the best job opportunity I had at the time. And then you get paid a lot to teach English here right now. So I was like, oh, it's so much money, over $3,000 to fly to China again, and then do quarantine costs on top of it. But I also had a little bit of help from my school, but mainly I knew that like I could make the money back once I ate that cost. But so if you're looking for ways to find a really cheap flight and hit your budget, it might be difficult at this time. And that's just the world we're living in right now with coronavirus. But no, if you can find a good deal, you'll make it back, because the teaching English market is super highly in demand right now. So you'll get a good high-paying job and earn that money back. So book directly through the company and try your best to find direct flights for cheap, but don't trust any flights that look really cheap on Google Flights or anything that have layovers and stuff, because direct is the best way to go right now. Okay, number 5. And I made a video about this, but I'll go more into detail about it, is what was the quarantine restrictions that you had and what was that process like? So when I first arrived to China, I basically got shepherded through the airport, put on a bus, sent to a hotel, and I sat in that hotel for 14 days. And that's what you have to do. Now, most hotels are pretty good about it, and they've really streamlined this process. And I was given 3 meals a day. The meals were pretty good, like in the morning, some good breakfast with eggs, steamed buns and other things, and fruit and all of that. So it was good breakfast with some yogurt. And then in the lunch and the dinner, you often get noodles and rice and meat and veggies and so many other things. So it was actually pretty good meals, at least where I was living. And you basically are in this room for 2 weeks straight. You can't leave. You can open the windows, like you have a good bathroom, you have everything you need in there. I'd recommend bringing snacks or other things that you want with you, books and things to keep you entertained. But you won't be able to leave for 2 weeks. And every day you'll have people come in and take your temperatures, maybe give you a few COVID tests. But they really streamline it, and if you just think of it as like doing it for the benefit of everybody involved, making sure you're safe and everyone else is safe. And the reason China has such a good COVID record right now is because they're doing these stringent measures. So I think it's a good thing, and The next part of this though is that it's dependent on which country or which city you're going to after your 2-week hotel quarantine. So in Jiangsu province where I live, I also was required to do a 2-week apartment quarantine. So what I did was I had a hotel 2-week quarantine. Once that was done, I got on a bus and they took me directly to my apartment complex, which my school set up for me beforehand. It might be more difficult if you don't have an apartment set up or anything. And then I was put in my apartment complex, and then I had to message people every day my temperature, and I could get food delivered, and I could have things, like I could make my own food and get groceries and buy things on Waimai, get everything delivered. So it wasn't too bad, but that basically was 28 days of isolation. So if you're someone who is an extrovert, can't handle that, maybe reconsider, but it was worth it in the end based on the outcomes I had afterwards. And 28 days of isolation, but when I got to my new apartment, I had to clean and set up and everything, so it felt like there was a breakup in it, but that was it. 28 days of quarantine. The first 2 weeks had my meals provided. The second 2 weeks, made my own, bought groceries, all through my phone. And the sixth and final question I will go into today, I've been getting this a lot, and I don't have an answer for you. So many people have commented on my videos, messaged me individually, even emailed me saying, when do you think the borders are going to be opening? You're living there. Have you heard any rumors about when the borders will reopen for everyone again? When will international students be able to come? And I don't have an answer for you. Right now, the best I can do is I've heard that probably maybe September, if you're vaccinated, you can return to China if you have your proper visas. And I've heard that many of the embassies are starting to issue more visas. So things are slowly picking up as the world semi goes back to normal. But I have heard that if you have the Chinese version of the vaccine, which would be almost impossible to do if you weren't in China first time, you can re-enter China without having to have these restrictions and quarantine. So if you were living in China and you got this Chinese COVID vaccine, and then you wanted to go home and see your family and come back to China, because you're vaccinated with that, you would be able to do that without quarantining and make it much more easy to come here and not be trapped. You could get out, see your family, travel, come back. And that's a good step in the right direction. I don't think this works for any of the other vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna yet, but I think my best guess will be in the fall of 2021, the borders will open much quicker and things will be back to normal for you so that you can go to and from China, get your jobs rolling, and get back into this country. But those are the main 6 questions I've been getting so often. And if you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram, or comment down below further questions for you. I hope this helped you, and I just wanted to be honest and straight up with you. No edits, no bullshit, just kind of tell you my story and my process. And honestly, living here the past 5 months has been such a blessing. No COVID issues, been safe, healthy, everything's good. So thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. And if you can, give me a like and a subscribe and keep following along on the journey. Talk to you later.